Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, you all are having a wonderful day today. So, when it comes down to it, I thought, of course, that I would finally give my little fight analysis, my fight preview, and my final fight prediction of the up and coming fight between that of Devin the Dream Haney and King Ryan Garcia, which, of course, I believe is going to be on the Zone pay per view this weekend. I believe that this is pretty much the only card that really matters on the card, at least in my personal view. Now, Arnold Barboza Jr., who I believe also competes at the 140-pound weight class, he's also going to be there, but I'm just not really quite sure where Arnold Barboza Jr. really ranks in terms of the actual elite 140-pounders. He appears to be a little bit of a threat, but I'm not quite sure if his power level nor his boxing ability is really going to stand up quite as well to that of a Devin Haney or that of a Teofimo Lopez. But to be fair, I would have to watch a little bit more of him. I guess we'll see more of him this weekend if everything, of course, goes according to plan. But anyways, this is going to be, I believe, a video by that of GQ Sports. Thought it was very interesting because they talk a little bit not only about the fight, but also just a little bit about their life or how they first met. And on top of that, certain other things, a little bit about their personal life that I thought overall was a little bit interesting. Of course, certain other stuff that probably is useless, but, of course, just very interesting nonetheless. But before I really go into the main video, if I'm going to give you my personal fight prediction, who do I believe is going to win the fight? Well, obviously, anyone has a chance in a fight, but I do believe that Devin Haney more than likely is going to win this fight. And, certain people may disagree with me, but Ryan Garcia, when it comes down to it, I just don't take a look at him as someone that is a true 100% championship caliber level fighter. Now, I think that he's a guy that can win a belt for sure. But Ryan Garcia, when you talk about his boxing ability as a whole, he might be maybe on the A- level, and that's being a little bit generous, but I'm not really quite sure how good he actually is. I think Ryan Garcia is very talented, especially athletically, and of course he has a little bit of boxing ability, but when you take a look at him, and I think that most people have really realized that Ryan Garcia appears to have a very amateurish style. A lot of the times, overall, he really leads with hooks. Sometimes he can kind of throw haymakers a little bit too much, especially that check left hook, because that check left hook clearly is his best punch. And the left hook is fine, but when you keep leading with it, and you're really not even supposed to be leading with hooks in that way, but when you keep leading with the hook, especially so repeatedly, a lot of the times you're going to get caught because a hook, even for how fast Ryan Garcia is, and he's extraordinarily fast and also very strong. But even overall for how fast Ryan Garcia is, eventually people are going to see that coming because a hook is always usually not going to, be faster than that of a straight punch. And on top of that, at times it can be a little bit shorter because it's not a straight punch. So once again, you have to have your opponent run into it. And Ryan Garcia, when it comes down to it, on second, note in terms of the skill set, I'm not really quite sure if he can really fight in a whole lot of other ranges than that of the mid-range and also on that of the back foot. I think that, of course, that he can pressure you to a certain degree, but I think that if you really get on the inside with Ryan Garcia, I don't know if Ryan Garcia is really going to be able to do that well. He doesn't come across to me as someone that is great defensively. Now, that being stated, I don't think that Devin Haney is someone that I would call super elite defensively either. I've seen him hurt very badly a couple times against Vasily Lomachenko. He got hurt, I believe, once or twice against Jojo Diaz. And I think George Kambosos, of course, even though Devin Haney dominated those two fights, he was able to get hit some of the times in that fight as well. The only fight recently, especially against one of his more elite opponents, with that Devin Haney, that he really did not get hit whatsoever, was against that of Regis Prograis, which really isn't a huge shock to me because Regis Prograis does not move his feet whatsoever. He's a guy that is a decent counterpuncher, but he's a guy that likes to, basically let you run into shots. Kind of like how Justin Gaethje got completely pieced up by Max Holloway. He's a guy that can be technical in certain ways, even though Gaethje has a little bit more of a brawling streak. But I think that he was kind of hoping that Max Holloway was going to pressure him a little bit more in a little bit more of a dangerous way and go for broke. That's not what ended up happening, and Gaethje ended up finding himself very confused that night. But like I said, Gaethje looked a little bit weird to me that night, but that's neither here nor there for this. But anyways, when for those of you that want to see that video about that, I already posted a video about that Max Holloway and Justin Gaethje thing, especially about the Max Holloway and Ilia Topuria possible fight. But anyways, but going into this, once again, Ryan Garcia, you can tell that, when you take a look at him, at least in my personal view, just in my eyes, that he just makes a lot of beginner mistakes. He closes his eyes, a lot of the times when he throws certain power punches in order to not see overall certain punches incoming. I get it to a certain degree, but that is that is a very fatal flaw overall that may cost him one of these times. He still sometimes has his chin way too high up in the air. He overall fights a little bit too tall, not enough head movement, not enough bob in his movement nor rhythm in my personal view. I just don't see him as someone that, in my view, is ever going to be a top 10 potential pound for pound fighter, especially around his weight classes. Because do we really see Ryan Garcia defeating, overall Gervonta Tank Davis, Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, any of those guys? I'm not really quite sure about that, and are we really even sure if Ryan Garcia defeats guys like Subriel Matias, Isaac Pitbull Cruz, and overall that of, what's his name, Regis Prograis or Josh Taylor? I'm not quite sure if he even defeats those guys, so we'll see. But anyways, they're going to kind of talk about overall, what they believe is going to happen on fight night, and they're going to talk a little bit more about their life, and I'm going to tune in and give my little analyzations. And of course, the third point that I have to bring up here is this. I don't really know where Ryan Garcia is mentally right now. Now, could this be, overall kind of, gotcha moment where Ryan Garcia is just trying to appear to be somewhat of this crazy character or this mentally unwell character, somewhat, or scattered character in order to appear crazier? And, overall, I'll be willing to do anything in the fight, so you better watch out for me. I'm crazy and this is my way of intimidating you. Kind of like, maybe how Conor McGregor has done in the past with certain opponents against Jose Aldo, although his tactics were effective. I'm not really quite sure how, I'm not sure if Ryan Garcia's tactics are going to be that effective against Devin Haney. Devin Haney appears, at least mainly, to be a pretty level-headed dude, especially within that of the ring. But once again, is this the time like when Muhammad Ali, tried to freak out Sonny Liston by, acting like he was crazy? Or is something really going on here? And is he a little bit mentally unwell? I think that maybe it's a little bit of both, but it is what it is. I do believe that Ryan Garcia, that he does see potentially the end of his career, which of course is very damaging, for a lot of fighters, because this is something that they believe that they were bred for. This is something that they believe that they were born for. And a lot of the times they are. Ryan Garcia probably was bred and born for boxing, but there's just different levels. That's why it's very hard to accept overall for a lot of these boxers when they end up losing, because the thing that they ended up training in their whole life, the thing overall that they were the best at for such a long period of time, when they finally lose, they're just like, wow, maybe I wasn't bred for this, but I don't know if I'm really good at anything else. Like there was a clip one time, I believe, of Miguel Cotto, I believe it was when he lost to Austin Trout, where his wife, of course, got emotional and said, I don't want you to do this anymore. But Miguel Cotto said, what can I do? This is all I know. So once again, it's very damaging for a boxer, especially on Ryan Garcia's level, someone who isn't just a boxer, but someone who is one of the most known athletes in the world, not just in boxing, when it comes down to it, but just all around the globe, because of his marketing and because of his image and because of his looks. It's going to be very difficult, because Ryan Garcia is going to receive a lot of comments. He's going to receive a lot of comments in the street. I guarantee you that a lot of people see Ryan Garcia and they know immediately who he is. Even casual fans, even people that don't know boxing. So Ryan Garcia, it's going to be a little bit difficult for him, but we'll see. But anyways, enough talk overall for the intro. Let's get straight into it. Let's see what they have to say.
He's definitely not a good role model, and not a guy that, the younger generation should be looking at. Mike Tyson only bit one ear. I want to bite both.
What the fuck is wrong with this dude? And once again, I'm sure overall that Ryan Garcia is trolling to a certain degree, but once again, Ryan Garcia, I think a little bit of this is a character, or him trying to freak Devin Haney out a little bit, or, him trying to get in his head. But, you're still going to have to deal with Devin Haney at the end of the day, and it's no offense against Ryan Garcia, but a lot of the trash talk that he ends up, talking, it really comes across as a big a big nothing sandwich. It just comes across to me as a bunch of fluff and muff that really doesn't have a whole lot behind it. Like when he was on Mike Tyson's podcast and he said, I'll knock Gervonta Tank Davis out within 2 rounds and all sort of bullshit. To me, that was just a fighter. I'm not going to say that he was scared of Gervonta Tank Davis, but Ryan Garcia has never come across to me as a fighter. overall that believes in a lot of what he states. Just in my personal view.
It's the most truthful sport in the world. Whatever you did will come out in the ring no matter what. No matter how hard you try to lie. I mean, it's obviously the easiest sport for me because it's what I do. This is something that comes natural to me. One thing that I do love about it is that all eyes is on me. Like, you know, it's and everything. If I lose, it's because of me. If I win, it's because of me. I'm very competitive, so I wanted it to be everything to fall on me and my hard work and my discipline and my work ethic.
And of course, the first question, before we get to this bullshit question, overall was, is boxing the hardest sport? And you could very highly debate that. You know, fighting and combat sports in general, you know, no matter what combat we're talking about, whether it's kickboxing, boxing, MMA, UFC, whatever you want to talk about, Olympic style wrestling, whatever it may be. But of course, mainly, you know, fights where you probably end up getting hit and you can probably use everything, and boxing also included, blah, blah, blah. You know, where of course you're getting hit in the head repeatedly, you know, sports like that. You know, at the end of the day, combat sports, in my personal view, you could definitely have a great debate that they are the hardest sports in the world, not just because of, you know, overall what you're dealing with, you know, after a loss and all that other stuff, but on top of that, also because of the physical stuff that is required. Boxing, you know, like there will be certain athletes, and all of a sudden they'll try boxing and they realize that they don't have the level of conditioning that they thought that they did overall for a boxing match. Boxing is a true revealer, not only of spirit and of heart and, you know, mental fortitude, but it's also a revealer overall of mental and physical conditioning. You have to be debatably out of any other sport, possibly even more than MMA, but I'm not really quite sure. I think just combat sports in general. You have to be more conditioned for combat sports than any other probably particular sport, even more than soccer, even more than basketball, because you are constantly moving, you are constantly using your feet. That's if you're, you know, an elite fighter, you're constantly moving, you're constantly outthinking your opponent. And on top of that, you could possibly get very badly hurt in a certain fight, and it's going to be up to you in those certain moments to recover, try to recuperate yourself, and overall, you know, try to adjust. Now, the question is about this fight is that who has the potentiality to get more hurt in this fight? Well, Ryan Garcia, of course, has more pop in his punches, I think probably by a decent amount. And, you know, of course, they're both extremely fast. But I think that Devin Haney, in my view, and Ryan Garcia is going to talk about it, you know, later on. But Devin Haney, in my personal view, you know, I just believe that he's better in almost every single category, other than, you know, maybe hand speed, just individual hand speed, you know, and that's really even a debate. And punching power, I just don't know if there's anything else that Ryan Garcia really beats Devin Haney in. I don't think that he beats him overall in heart, and that's not me stating that Ryan Garcia doesn't have heart. I think that every boxer has some sort of heart, but I think that Devin Haney has more to lose within this fight. You know, but of course, that being said, Ryan Garcia has a lot to lose as well, because it's going to be very traumatic for him if he ends up losing to that of Devin Haney, because I'm not really quite sure where he's going to go from there. He just may not be cut out for professional boxing. Like, I remember a certain amount of people, they said the same thing about AJ Anthony Joshua when they were stating all this stuff about he's a fraud and, you know, he really belongs as a model. And, you know, I get it to a certain degree. But AJ Anthony Joshua, at the end of the day, has defeated real deal champions within that weight class. You can argue about how skilled they were, whatever you want to, but he's defeated Alexander Povetkin, Vladimir Klitschko, you know, Dillian White, Joseph Parker, you know, recently defeated Otto Wallin. You know, AJ is a real deal fighter. He's not, you know, as skilled quite as a Fury or a Usyk, but he's still a very decently great fighter for that weight class. Ryan Garcia has never even won an official belt in his career. So we'll see what happens.
Who has better fashion is very obvious. Look at me. Everything I do is on point. Ryan has his own drip. He got his own style. I got my own style.
I don't know why the fuck. I don't know if they were purposely overall dressed up like this for this question. I don't know. I don't really watch GQ. I don't know if they're like a fashion magazine or something. But these two look fucking ridiculous. I mean, Ryan Garcia, he's dressed up overall in his best impersonation of Al Pacino, you know, as Tony Montana, you know, in fucking Scarface. I mean, is it like, is it like overall something like, is it like when you're a Latino fighter, especially a Mexican, you know, fighter, like, because I believe that I've seen the same thing with Oscar De La Hoya. And I think Canelo Alvarez wore a very similar suit. Like, is it something overall that is literally just required overall, to just wear one of those suits and have those those little, slip-on shoes? Like, I swear to God, I see a multitude of Latin fighters always wear that shit. And then Devin Haney, I don't even know what the fuck he's wearing. Like, he looks like he's doing his best, Skeletor impression or something. I don't know what the hell that even is.
So I can't say who has more drip. It depends who you're talking to. Some people may like his style. Some people may like my style. This is Giorgio Armani's first watch collection. Right here. It's a skeleton AP, rose gold, no diamonds, no nothing, just gold. Y'all know I love jewelry. If you know me, you know I always keep the fire timepieces and some ice on. I bought all of them, but somebody stole all of them, and I only was left with the blue one. It is what it is. We were about like 9, maybe 10. We fought in the junior Golden Gloves, and Ryan had a lot more experience than me. Easy work. He was a kid that he was just starting out. He didn't have as much experience as me. I beat him. I gave him 8 count. I was always the top dog. I mean, everybody knew Ryan's in the tournament. He'll be in the final.
And of course, for those of you that don't know, these two, I believe, met in the amateurs a total of 6 times. So Ryan Garcia, of course, ended up pulling out 3 of those times. Devin Haney, of course, ended up pulling out 3 of those times. So this, of course, isn't just a big fight because, they're two very well known. I mean, it's kind of big for a multitude of reasons. Of course, Ryan Garcia, he's never been a legitimate champion, but he's very well known across the world. Like the Gervonta Tank Davis fan base in the LDBC and new media, they try to force this thing down people's throats about how Gervonta is the confirmed face of boxing right now because he ended up doing over 1 million pay-per-view buys with Ryan Garcia, which is great. But the context behind it is that Ryan Garcia has about 13 million followers on Instagram. Not only overall is he one of the most followed boxers in the world, he's probably one of the most followed athletes in the world. It is what it is. So Ryan Garcia has been marketed very well, and on top of that, his, somewhat of good looks, I'm sure that creates a decent, woman fan base, just like that of Oscar De La Hoya and certain other fighters in the past. I'm sure overall, even to a certain degree, that of Canelo Alvarez. I guarantee you that he probably has a certain, female fan base, especially when he was younger, when it comes down to it. So Ryan Garcia is a dude to where people knew him. He got somewhat of views. So what the Gervonta Tank Davis fan base will try to tell you is that, oh, Gervonta, you can't even say anyone else right now is the face of boxing, not even Canelo, because look at the numbers that he did, right? But if we're going to go there, Gervonta Tank Davis without Ryan Garcia has never even done over 300,000 pay-per-view buys. Those are just the facts of the matter. Now partially that's due because he's now facing the greatest of competition in the world. And I know that Gervonta Tank Davis fans, they probably disagree with me, but it is what it is. It's just the truth. When it comes down to it. Gervonta Tank Davis, once again, he only did 1 million pay-per-view buys on that because it was with Ryan Garcia. And, we don't hold that against Gervonta Tank Davis. Gervonta is one of the main faces of boxing, but like I said, Canelo Alvarez sometimes gets in the ring with fighters like Caleb Plant or some of these other guys, and sometimes he's getting anywhere from 300,000 to 900,000. So Canelo Alvarez, once again, he's still getting consistent numbers. That's why right now I can't state that Gervonta is the confirmed face of boxing until I see his next numbers. Now, if he goes against Frank Martin and gets 600,000 pay-per-view buys, then I can say, okay, you know what? You could debate that Gervonta Tank Davis is the main face of boxing because those are great numbers, especially for an opponent like that of a Frank Martin who isn't as highly touted and a guy who's not a legitimate champion. Then overall, you can kind of state that. But you can't state that off of a fight that really was in the making for 7 years. Everyone knew who both of these fighters were, even non-boxing fans. And then that fight does 1.2 million pay-per-view buys, and then call that person the face of boxing. That just doesn't make any sense. Like that would be calling, Terrence Bud Crawford, the bigger star overall, over that of Gervonta Tank Davis previously because his last fight, did 800,000 pay-per-view buys against Errol Spence Jr. That just doesn't make any sense. It is what it is.
Over the years, we grew up fighting. We grew up being.
But of course, the point being is that this is going to be the 7th and more than likely the final time that these two face off. Unless, of course, Ryan Garcia might possibly pull off the upset, which, of course, is possible. You never know. But, if I'm really going to go there, I'd probably only give Ryan Garcia about a 10 to 20% chance to win this fight. Just in my personal view. He just comes across to me as very amateurish. I've never really been super impressed with his style. He's a fun little entertaining fighter to watch, but he doesn't come across to me as a fighter that really has that much of special effects. He just doesn't. And when I say special effects, I'm talking about that thing that really, really, really makes you special. He just doesn't have it, in my personal view.
Rivals. So I know Ryan really well. We even, as kids, went to like circus in Vegas together. We went to the amusement park.
And of course, whoever wins this fight could potentially get that fight against Gervonta Tank Davis. In Ryan Garcia's case, of course, if he's able to win it, he would get the rematch, and he would get the chance to possibly avenge himself, or at least possibly take over the 140-pound weight class. If Devin Haney, of course, gets that Ryan Garcia fight, and this fight does at least 600,000 pay-per-view buys, which I assume more than likely it'll do around there, 400,000 to 600,000. That's what I'm predicting. Could even do anywhere from 800,000, but I'm predicting more than likely 600,000 pay-per-view buys, somewhere around that mark, 400,000 to 600,000. Then Devin Haney can say, okay, Gervonta Tank Davis, what's up now? Because now you can't say overall that I don't have the fan base or that this is not happening. So what excuse are you going to make now overall to not fight me? Because Devin Haney is trying to go after that Gervonta Tank Davis fight. He's trying to prove to Gervonta Tank Davis, I think, right now that he can be a star. That's a part of the appeal, I believe, of this fight. And of course, Devin Haney, in my personal view, he's probably looking to do better against Ryan Garcia than what Gervonta Tank Davis did. And Gervonta, of course, stopped him, I believe, within 7. Gervonta did, pretty decently well. I thought he won the majority of the rounds. But, Ryan Garcia, I'll tell you what, he was giving Gervonta Tank Davis fits in the early part of that fight. Gervonta was definitely feeling that power. Because he was, even when Ryan Garcia was getting in there, Gervonta Tank Davis was complaining to that referee. He was holding for dear life in some of those early rounds. He felt that power. But Ryan Garcia, like I stated, he's just a little bit too flawed. So of course Gervonta Tank Davis, being the professional and the elite fighter that he is, at least in terms of his skill wise, he of course was eventually able to knock him down. It is what it is.
Together. And then they take us to Circus. They get the unlimited wristbands. I don't know. I never even knew they had unlimited wristbands back then. But then all of a sudden, he starts getting better and starts beating people. It wasn't a lot of people in amateurs that would beat Ryan, but I was one of the very few. And I don't think that Ryan has got much better since the amateurs. Of course, he got better.
I would agree with you, Devin Haney. And I'm sure Ryan Garcia has gotten better a little bit, but when you take a look at a lot of guys that either, whether they be Olympians or whether they not be, but a lot of the great fighters, within boxing, it's rare overall that you see them be a gold medalist and they end up as one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in the world. And some people may say, what are you talking about? They did it with other guys, right? But, how many Cuban fighters do we see that ended up being a gold medalist, in the amateurs, and then we never hear from them again? Or some of these Asian fighters that, Chinese fighters that end up as a gold medalist and then we never hear from them again. Now, to be fair, that also might be partially a result to throwing them basically to the wolves sometimes immediately. Now, of course, you have certain fighters like AJ Anthony Joshua, Andre Ward, Vasily Lomachenko, Guillermo Rigondeaux. You have fighters that have won a gold medal, or a medal in general, and they did very well. But, like a lot of fighters in the past, they basically had to improve within that of professional boxing, and they had to, really learn kind of a new style. I think that, Ryan Garcia, I think that he was very successful in a lot of tournaments when he was younger. I think that he was probably very decently successful in the amateurs, or at least more overall than what he probably should have been with some of his flaws. And I don't think that he's really improved much as a professional boxer, just in my personal view. I just don't think that he has, and I believe, I agree with Devin Haney on that. I'm not going to state that Ryan Garcia hasn't made any adjustments because, to be fair, I didn't really watch much of his amateur days. But you can tell that Ryan Garcia makes a lot of amateur mistakes. He makes a lot of mistakes.
Of course, he got stronger. But for the most part, his style is very similar. He's the same mistakes that he had when we were kids. He's skillful, but there's limits. He has limits. He's not the better boxer. I do everything better than him. I hit harder.
Well, Mr. Ryan Garcia, that has yet to be seen. And just from my personal point of view, now once again, I've been proved wrong before. I don't think anyone gets their predictions 100% right, or at least 100% of the time. But at the end of the day, Mr. Ryan Garcia, I don't know one thing that you really do better than Devin Haney other than punch. That's really about it. I think overall that you hit harder. I think that that's really about it. Everything else, I think, goes to Devin Haney. Foot movement, head movement, even defense. And I don't really count Devin Haney in my view as this pronounced Sweepy Whitaker or Floyd Mayweather Jr. type of fighter. I don't think that he's someone overall that is the most elite defensively that I've ever seen. He can be hurt. Lomachenko showed that, and a multitude of other fighters showed that. But even before he fought Lomachenko, Haney had gotten hurt by a couple of opponents, and I'm not really even going to count the Hoya Linares one. But against Jojo Diaz, he was hurt once or twice in that fight. Like he was a bit wobbled, I believe, against Jojo Diaz. He was hurt. So Devin Haney is not this dude that, in my view, is just elite defensively. And I will be interested to see if Ryan Garcia actually is able to get on the inside against him and go to the body consistently and, actually, do something with that, punch his elbows, punch his arms, and actually get Devin Haney to freak out a little bit, or at least overall, respect his power, and respect his ability, how Devin Haney will handle that. I think that more than likely he's better on the inside than Ryan Garcia because Ryan does not appear to have a great inside game from what I've seen. He's more of a mid-range to outside fighter. That's really where he prefers to fight. But Devin Haney also prefers to fight kind of there as well. But he can fight better on the inside than what Ryan Garcia can, in my view. And I'm not saying that Haney is the best inside fighter that I've ever seen. He also prefers to fight within the mid-range to long range. But once again, Devin Haney, in my view, he's pretty much better in every single category than what Ryan Garcia is. I think he's better in the mid-range. I think he's better in the long range or on the back foot. And I think he's better on the inside, definitely. But we'll see.
Jab is better, way better, actually. You watch his fights, watch mine, and you see what.
We'll see about that Ryan Garcia, because Devin Haney, in my personal view, like I said, when you talk about his skill set, I don't think that I would say Devin Haney, in my view, is an A-plus skilled fighter, but he's at least on the A level, in my view. He's a very tricky fighter, and he uses his feet very well. And one thing that Devin Haney knows how to do is that he knows how to control the pace and push the pace. That's what he knows how to do. If he can't, if he is having trouble a little bit with boxing you, then he at least is going to throw enough overall to push the tempo. That's what Devin Haney is going to do. And that's what I respect overall about his ability. Devin Haney has one of the better jabs in all of boxing. And on top of that, if it's not landing as much, he still is throwing it. Devin Haney, it's very hard for him to lose confidence within his jab. And that's a very good quality to have because a lot of fighters don't have that quality.
What are you more entertained by? Who's the stronger fighter? Me. Who's the faster? Me. Who's...
Right, but boxing isn't about who are you more entertained by that Ryan Garcia. At least not completely, And now it is in certain categories. But that's not always how you win a fight, Mr. Ryan Garcia. That's not how you win a fight, by who is more entertaining.
Just better overall is me. At that elite level, it's different. It's different. And I'm on a different level. I'm that elite. I'm that next. Ryan is good, but I'm that next level.
I agree that he is on that next level, at least compared to Ryan Garcia.
I took the fight because I'll fight anybody. I want to make the biggest and the best fights.
Let me also state this, because in my recent videos, I had some Gervonta Tank Davis fans that stated, oh, how could you say that Devin Haney has a better resume than Gervonta Tank Davis? Because it's the truth. I mean, let's not kid ourselves here. Devin Haney has defeated George Kambosos when he defeated Teofimo Lopez. No, you don't have to say that George Kambosos was a complete, A-grade fighter. But in my view, he was probably A-. Anyone who defeats Teofimo Lopez, in my view, deserves to be somewhat on the A-grade level. All right, it is what it is. He was able to defeat the undefeated Teofimo Lopez. And on top of that, I mean, he beat a couple of decent fighters before then. So George Kambosos was always looked at as a decent contender there. But, of course, he blew up once, Teofimo Lopez, he had fallen to George Kambosos. So that's when George Kambosos all of a sudden was able to blow up. So, yeah, it ended up happening. But then, yeah, he beat George Kambosos. Of course, he beat Vasily Lomachenko. Probably when Vasily Lomachenko was a bit older, but someone, made the point about, oh, well, Lomachenko lost to that of Orlando Salido on blah, blah, blah. Right, so let me ask you something. So, first of all, are we going to pretend that that wasn't Vasily Lomachenko's second professional fight against a champion overall, and on top of that, an extraordinarily experienced fighter, and that Vasily Lomachenko later on did not get better after that fight? This dude said overall that, oh, he lost to Orlando Salido, who Mikey Garcia absolutely destroyed, which, okay, no problem. So are we stating that Orlando Salido then is better than Gary Russell Jr., Guillermo Rigondeaux, Nicholas Walters, and Hoya Linares? Is that what we're saying now? So come on, let's cut the bullshit. Vladimir Klitschko, and other fighters early on in their career ended up losing Like Manny Pacquiao ended up, that's like me bringing up some shit about like how Manny Pacquiao lost to some, no-name Filipino fighters, early on in his career, but he defeated the likes of Miguel Cotto, and then overall, Juan Manuel Marquez, oh, well, Pacquiao can't be that great because look at some of the earlier losses that he has in his career. Like, it's just stupid. Like, come on. Obviously, Lomachenko was an A-grade fighter. Now, of course, was he smaller than Devin Haney by a decent amount? Yeah, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, he still was looked at as a huge threat. Haney was able to pull out of that fight. In my view, as a fight that could have went either way. Is what it is. And Regis Prograis, probably along the A- level, B+ level. But at the end of the day, he was looked at as debatably the most dominant fighter there, at least at that current moment in time. And Devin Haney was able to absolutely outperform him. A fighter that gave Josh Taylor a very tough time and kicked the shit out of, I believe, Jose Zepeda, or whatever the hell that one dude's name is.
Ryan was my mandatory a long time ago, and we were supposed to fight, but Ryan went his direction and chose to do other things.
And once again, no offense against Gervonta Tank Davis, but Isaac Pitbull Cruz is not an A-grade fighter. Rolly Romero definitely is not an A-grade level fighter. Mario Barrios is not an A-grade level fighter. Okay? None of those guys, Hector Garcia, none of these guys are A-grade level fighters. Okay? None of them.
I didn't think Brian would ever fight me. I didn't think he was interested, but he called me out, and here we are. Why not? It's the right time, right place. He has the WBC championship belt. And go rip that off him. Yeah, I mean, it was the right time.
My name is Patricia. I am a Starbucks College Achievement Plan graduate. Being a first-generation college graduate, this was a fortunate opportunity to have my college paid for by Starbucks. I pursued a mass communications degree to tell a story about my family.
I was born with wings, but psoriasis swooped in to clip them. It crushed my...
Well, I'm a little bit surprised overall, once again, that Oscar De La Hoya really let this fight go through, but apparently Oscar De La Hoya, it appears that if he's not done with Ryan Garcia, he's very damn near close to it. And I think that Oscar De La Hoya, they've had a little bit of a rift between each other. And on top of that, I think Oscar De La Hoya just takes a look at this kid and says, you know what? This kid is never going to be me. I'm trying to market him the best that I can, but this dude, when it comes down to it, he's not an elite level fighter. And I have to try to cash out on this kid now overall before he ends up fucking up my money, because overall, if I feed him to Subriel Matias or that of Isaac Pitbull Cruz, he could still potentially get his ass kicked there in a fight where we're not going to make as much money. So I need to cash out on this kid now. That's just my personal view of the matter. Now, I could be wrong, but Oscar De La Hoya, he appears, once again, I'm very surprised, because how many times when you have a fighter that you still look like you need to build up, and need to overall kind of get in there against, softer touches, and then just recently lost, against Gervonta Tank Davis. Like, how many times would you see that fighter immediately go against one of the top 10 pound-for-pound fighters in the world in Devin Haney literally next year? I mean, it almost never happens. So once again, it's just very, very particularly interesting to see, especially for a fighter that has never won a belt before. I mean, you would try to think overall that Oscar De La Hoya would just, that he would try to build Ryan Garcia up again, but it seems like he's just done with this dude. And I think that he takes a look at it and says, yeah, I could put Ryan Garcia in the ring against Subriel Matias or Isaac Pitbull Cruz, but if he ends up losing that, which he very much particularly could, if he ends up losing that, then his career is over, and I can't make any more money off of him. So we better make this super fight now with Devin Haney before this kid potentially loses. So we might as well just cash out on him now. And then later on, if we can maybe, get a title fight with Isaac Pitbull Cruz or Subriel Matias, we can make him cash out. If he wins the title, great. We can suck more money out of him, when it comes down to it as an asset. If not, then good riddance. I think that's pretty much how Oscar De La Hoya is thinking, because why would you put Ryan Garcia just immediately in the ring with Devin Haney? I mean, to me, that was an interesting move. That's why I was a little bit surprised that this fight had happened. But Oscar seems done on Ryan Garcia's ass.
Every training camp is going to be different. I always say this is my best training camp because it always gets better. Like, this is the best training camp I've ever had. It's funner and exciting and thrilling because you're discovering new ideas, things you didn't see before, understanding that, oh, wow.
You mean defense? you mean defense, Ryan Garcia? You mean not leading with a left hook, every single fight? every single punch. Now, to be fair, in this last fight, he did a little bit better overall, once again, than what some people expected. He didn't really do better than what I expected because I never really thought Oscar Duarte, I never really thought that he was that great in the first place. He seemed like another little club Mexican fighter that, was on a good little win streak. Another B minus, level fighter, probably C plus level fighter. But at the end of the day, really nothing more than that. Decent little tune-up. Ryan Garcia, of course, did decently well. Does that mean that he's going to do well in this fight? Probably not, but we'll see.
It's like a music to boxing. Like boxing has its own sound and its own rhythm and its own pace, and it slows down and then it picks up. It's like a composing, and then pick up, and then it could go. It just does its own thing sometimes. You just gotta stay on beat.
I had a hard time making weight at 135. I stayed there for a long time since I was 17 to 24. It was long overdue for me to move to 140, and now I'm at 140. I feel much more comfortable, better mentally, physically. Don't be surprised if you see me move up to 147 in the near future.
I believe more than likely that you will, Mr. Devin Haney. I believe more than likely that you're going to, because I just don't really see anyone who's going to really challenge you at the 140-pound weight class, just in my personal view. I mean, Tio, of course, is very talented, but he has a certain amount of holes in his game, especially on the front foot, especially offensively. He almost has no answers against elite-level movers when it comes down to it. He showed that against Sandor Martin a little bit. He definitely showed that against that of Jermaine Ortiz. And I believe that Devin Haney would just be the completely type of wrong style to fight him unless Tio really got his shit together. But we would have to see on that. And of course, that would still be a big win. It'd still be an A-grade win. But Tio, it looks like his time is almost up as well. But we'll see. We'll see. And of course, I do believe that Devin Haney will more than likely win this fight. And Isaac Pitbull Cruz and Subriel Matias, those guys are, decent B-grade level fighters that are exciting to watch. But in my view, in terms of, deeper, that they're not multi-dimensional fighters. I mean, Subriel Matias, of course, is a machine. He comes forward. He has great stamina. He's always throwing. He has a great amount of power. But Devin Haney is just way too lengthy. I think, excuse me, I think that he has enough overall power to keep him back. And I believe that more than likely he would probably box circles around both of them. Potentially, but we'll see.
Fight movies. I like Creed. I like Creed 1. I like all three of them, but I would say probably 1.
I'm personally not a fan of the Creeds. I know.
Neither am I. all Creed was basically was a continuation of the franchise with basically half the flavor of what Rocky was. And that's not me stating, that's not me dissing any of the cast or any of the actors, but a lot of the times these franchises, they try to reboot them when a lot of the times they would be better off just staying ended. Whether it be the Terminator franchise, whether it be overall that of the Star Wars franchise, with that Rey, series, whether it be with the Marvel franchise to a degree, like sometimes they just try to get these things for way too long. And, it's kind of interesting, some of the stories, but I don't know. To me, it just really didn't seem like it had any of the same flavor of the Rocky films, especially the first couple. And I'm not really a fan, of fight films in the first place. Now, I love films. I have certain favorite films of all time, like The Dark Knight, A Few Good Men, Aliens, and, some of the other films like that, a certain amount of other ones. Love films, but fight films is just, I don't know. It has to be very story motivated because, of course, you're not going to see great technique out of the film. So Rocky, in my view, probably overall is the best one, in my personal view.
Sorry, Michael. Me and Michael used to be cool. I don't know what happened. He just stopped talking to me. Bro, hit me back. I haven't texted him, though, but I just feel like, I don't know. Well, the one thing I respect about him is his dedication to the sport and to this whole journey. They're a dedicated family that don't give up. And he's resilient. They have tried their hardest, so I respect him.
I respect him for taking the fight. A lot of guys don't want to fight me. A lot of guys go around fighting me. And to Ryan's defense, he does not have to fight me. Ryan can just go do YouTube, TikTok. He made a lot of money already. He doesn't have to fight me. But I respect that he took the fight. He's daring to be great. If he is, we'll see on April 20th. I want my name to be mentioned with the greats when it's all said and done. I want my name to live on, much longer than I ever will. I want it to be, show my family something different, break the cycle, and that's what I did. And now one day, maybe my kids will box or my grandkids. This will live on longer than I ever will. The Devin Haney legacy, the Haney name.
I just want to do what God wants.
It's going to be very interesting to see what the legacy of these two fighters is going to be. I think that Ryan Garcia, in my personal view at best, that he's going to be a Victor Ortiz, someone that, was very hyped up early on in his career and has somewhat of talent, but just a lot of the times can't seem to get out of his own way, and someone that, can't seem to get over certain roadblocks that he kind of creates for himself, whether it be skill-wise or in other avenues. And as for Devin Haney, I mean, at his best, and of course Ryan Garcia, when I say Victor Ortiz, he might be able to capture a belt or steal a belt one day, even over a very decent fighter. But he's never going to be a guy that, in my view, is going to be top 10 pound per pound. Just in my personal view. And I don't believe that Victor Ortiz was ever top 10 pound per pound. I don't believe he was. But if I'm wrong about that, someone correct me. But anyways, Devin Haney, as for the best of him, I mean, of course, the roof possibly is being the number 1 pound per pound fighter. We'll see where that goes. But, 140, I think more than likely he's probably going to take that because I just don't see any current fighters that are really going to threaten him that much. Josh Taylor, I thought maybe was the best bet to possibly threaten Devin Haney. But Josh Taylor, I mean, he looked like a complete shell of himself in that Teofimo Lopez fight. He looked very one-dimensional in my personal view. He looked even slower than what he usually is. He didn't look good at all in that fight.
Me to do and fulfill his will. That's the only legacy I'm here to leave and do. And if I'm able to do that, my name will speak for itself. I don't even need a box. This is what I try to tell people. I box because I love it and I'm that good. But I don't need a box. If I retired today, I would live lavishly for the rest of my life. I do this for Jesus Christ and the kingdom of heaven, and then love. Expect the unexpected. Control chaos. I don't want to say it. And a bloodbath.
Come April 20th, it's going to be fireworks. The whole world needs to tune in. The world is going to see me beat down Ryan Garcia, get him out of boxing, because he's definitely not a good role model and not a guy that, the younger generation should be looking at. They should be looking at guys like me.
Mike Tyson only bit one ear. I want to bite both. I swear, that'd be sick. I might even start off the fight.
Dude, that fucking Joaquin Phoenix / Heath Ledger Joker look on his face. Anyways, in terms of overall, this question, how will the fight end? And this is pretty much the final part of the prediction, at least somewhat. How do I believe the fight will end? I believe more than likely Devin Haney will have his hand raised. I believe more than likely that he'll win the fight. And I think more than likely that he's going to do it by decision. Now, if a stoppage happened on either end, I wouldn't really be surprised. But if a stoppage does end up happening, I believe that more than likely it'll be probably in favor of that of Devin Haney. Because Ryan Garcia, I'm not really quite sure how good his chin actually is. I think that, I don't know if I want to say chinny necessarily, but someone that you can hurt, someone overall that can be knocked down, especially with a lot of the times how high his chin is up in the air and how tall he fights. And once again, I'm not really sure where Ryan Garcia is mentally. And it's going to be interesting because if both fighters, if they were a little bit stagnant to throw, or if they were sometimes, a little bit careful overall to throw, I wouldn't be surprised. Don't be surprised if this fight is kind of, a little bit cautious from both sides, because I think that Devin Haney is kind of wondering right now, what is Ryan Garcia really going to bring to the table? And one thing that he does have to watch out is that Ryan Garcia does have phenomenal power. So we'll see. I don't know if I'm expecting actually Devin Haney to just completely wear him down over the course of 12 rounds, just in terms of completely beating him up. Devin Haney he doesn't come across to me as that guy. He's a guy that, kind of has a circling style, a guy that more than likely fights a little bit more on the back foot. He's just not a guy that really breaks people down. But Devin Haney, I'm sure that he meant that break him down, in his own way. I'm sure that that's probably what he meant. But we'll see. Devin Haney, I think, is more of a guerrilla tactics warfare guy, to where I think that, he's going to go in and out, probably keep it also a little bit in the mid-range, but he's mainly going to use his feet in this fight, in my view. And, of course, if something lands and catches him that hurts him, then great. I think overall that's what's going to happen. But it's going to be interesting, because Devin Haney, once again, I don't find him to be an A-plus skilled fighter, but he's someone that would be around the A-grade range. We'll see if Ryan Garcia can catch him, so we'll see. But I believe more than likely that Devin Haney will win by unanimous decision. If it's by stoppage, I wouldn't be surprised. But I also want to see if Ryan Garcia actually comes up to fight decently well in this fight. I hope that he actually puts up a good fight, because I wouldn't be surprised at all if Ryan Garcia just barely throws, and there's an Oliver McCall performance like, what happened with Lennox Lewis, or a Justin Gaethje, against Max Holloway.
Southpaw. Just to mess around with him, see what he's about. You might hear me singing one of my songs between the rounds and just like, no. You want to hear one of my songs? I can just make a new one. Come on, Sean. NGQ, doing what I do. All white, looking nice. Okay, come through. I don't know if Ryan Garcia is taking the fight serious or not. That's not for me to really pay too much attention to. I'm going to, above and beyond, pushing myself to the limit in this training camp. Try to, compete with myself. It's bigger than Ryan Garcia. It's bigger than any opponent. I'm in there competing against myself and being the best me that I can be. So come here, Patron. If he's ready or not, I will be. And he's going to be obliterated and left with no crumbs.
We'll see about that, Mr. Ryan Garcia, quote-unquote King Ryan Garcia. But anyways, we'll see overall what ends up happening within this fight. I am decently excited for it. I may even potentially go live for it. I'm not quite sure, but we'll have to see about that. We'll have to see. But anyways, that's pretty much about it overall for this. What do I believe that both fighters will have to do? I think that Devin Haney, of course, will have to work in with his jab. I think he's going to have to use his feet quite a lot within this fight. Don't be afraid to go to the body. He's going to have to especially watch out for that left hook, because, of course, Ryan Garcia just loves to have that thing on repeat. Ryan Garcia sometimes throws that punch a little bit too much, so he's got to be careful. He's got to be careful. Talking about, both Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia. Garcia's got to be careful not to overextend it, and on top of that, overall, get it. But, Devin Haney might, catch Ryan Garcia somewhat overextending. Or he might overall just be able to turn over his punch, his right hand, and he overall might be able, to catch Ryan Garcia with a right cross before, before Garcia, of course, is able to catch him with something. So just be very cognizant, of course, of that left cross, because it's coming. Fight Ryan Garcia when you guys are in exchanges, or when you guys, not really exchanges, but when you guys are, kind of in the close range. And if you're tying him up, hit him a little bit, because Ryan Garcia does not appear to always be the best within that of the clinch. He tries sometimes, like he tried against Gervonta Tank Davis, but he's not really the most elite at it. So, try to overall bully him a little bit on the inside. Ryan Garcia has also never really fought a guy that I believe can, really be accustomed to his size. Same with that of Devin Haney. So let's see overall, once again, if something can happen there. We'll see, but it'll be very interesting. As for that of Ryan Garcia, work to the body a little bit early. Don't be afraid, to jab. Overall, do not give up on your jab. And he's going to have to jab a little bit more in this fight, because Ryan has never really been, in my view, an elite jabber. So we'll see overall what ends up happening. Try to push Devin Haney back, but I just don't know if Ryan Garcia, I think he might try to do it, but, he's also not, in my view, the best pressure fighter. He is against certain fighters, but Ryan Garcia really prefers to fight more in the mid-range than the long range. So, or on the back foot. He tries, but we'll see. But yeah, he's going to have to go to the body, double up on those jabs, get that right cross down to the body to Devin Haney. Don't be afraid to go to the body. Keep the hands up, keep the chin tucked, and overall use your feet. Use your feet to move in and outside of the range. You can't overall, once again, overextend with your feet sometimes as much as Devin Haney. You're going to have to stay in the range, in my view, a little bit more than what that of a Devin Haney does, because his feet are going to be faster. So, you move in and outside of the range, but at times you're going to have to stay a little bit closer to Devin Haney also, in my view, than what he does to you, because he's quicker with the feet. But we'll see what happens. It'll be very interesting. But Ryan Garcia is going to have to be elite defensively, in my personal view, in order to win this fight. I just don't think that he is. And we'll see. We'll see. But anyways, that's pretty much about it for today. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll talk to you all later.